Hello, everyone. Welcome to our episode today of the Skin Wellness Pro Show, the official podcast of the Nutritional Aesthetics Alliance. I am Rachael Pontillo, president of the Nutritional Aesthetics Alliance, and I'm excited to be here with you today. And I'm also excited to introduce my co-host and our education specialist, Tara Swagger. Hey, Tara.
Hi, glad to be here. Very excited for another episode.
And you're joining us from Florida today. You're
I
on like a
am.
little vacay, work
Mm-hmm.
K.
Yep. Oh, it's always a work day, but
Yeah.
I always make sure I get enough time for downtime as well. So,
That's good. I'm jealous that you have nice warm weather because even though
uh,
it's starting to get warmer here in Pennsylvania, it's still a little chilly out there.
yeah, it was dreary in Connecticut when I left, and it just I was craving the sunlight and the warmth
Mhm.
so much. So I'm happy to be down here.
Well, I'm excited for you and I will live vicariously. So, today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of our skin wellness pros struggle with. I know I personally have struggled with this, and I'm sure you've
Hmm.
encountered this on your journey at some point too. And that is two things really. It's how do you find your focus and stay focused in your business? And on kind of the flip side of the same coin, how do you avoid distraction? And we're not just talking about distraction that everybody has a personal life in addition to their professional life. We're going to talk about that on an upcoming episode, finding that balance. But I'm talking a little bit more specifically about how do you avoid distraction and find your focus in your practice? Because I don't know about you, but like anytime I go to a conference or a trade show, there's always something new and exciting that looks so great and promises such great results. So, do you buy it? Do you try it? Or do you just kind of stick to what's working? How do you figure all that out, and how do you actually find what should be your focus?
I think that it's so interesting after all these years of being in the business. Um, I think people need to find their focus and then at the same time know that their focus can change, right? Because I think there's two parts. There's the part where either people don't find their focus and they're sort of all over the place. Um, they're spread out in different directions. They're not really honing their skill. And then they're struggling to make the kind of money that they want to make or grow their business. And then there's sometimes where you might find your focus and then you stay so rigid to that focus that you then eliminate opportunity, right? So
Right.
it's sort of like find your focus, but then be willing to shift your focus. And so it's kind of a big package. And I think certainly as estheticians or health coaches, wellness professionals, we have our personal direction and how our business is run. But really, this is something that anybody deals with. If
Absolutely.
if you're an entrepreneur, if you own your own business, um, I think I've noticed over the last few years, even more particularly, that I've noticed that a lot of estheticians coming out of school are choosing a path, quote unquote path, waxing. Sometimes you find that they're beauty professionals and they sort of focus on waxing, which I think is great. That's not something I like to focus on. So like I don't have that as part of my business. But sometimes they don't feel as connected to doing the hands-on with skin. I think as I've grown older and my practice has moved on, I've moved more into the coaching, right? So and I've done all the parts and particles to this business, but I think when you are new, especially, there's so many groups of Facebook. There's so many people out there. Come buy this product, come buy that product. If you don't do this, you're not going to make enough money, or you need to add this so you can make $500 a person. Like, and so when you're kind of trying to find that, it's so hard to decide what you should buy, what product you should use. Sometimes I see these girls in some of these groups where they're using a certain product line, but then someone's trying to tell them that their product line is better. And then they have
Right.
this FOMO, right? I'm fear of missing out on being the best because I don't have that. But, I think we both know that you can really get dragged around in the commercialization of what you should or shouldn't be doing in the business, right?
Yeah, and I think that it is also really tempting. I mean, talk about the FOMO. It's like some of these modalities, there's a lot of kind of esthetician coaches and esthetician influencers out there who are talking about how much money some of these machines and types of facials and modalities deliver. And then I see people invest in these machines that are, you know,
Mhm.
20, $30,000 machines for their
Totally.
practice. And they put that service on their menu, but it's either not what it's cracked up to be and they don't enjoy delivering that service as much as they
Hmm.
thought they would, or it actually isn't selling as well as they thought it would, because even though it was like a big thing that works for a lot of people, it might not have been the right fit for that person's particular clientele.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
So I think that it's really easy to think that just because something is new and popular, that everybody will like it, but that might not be the right fit. So I think it's really important when you're making decisions on what modalities to bring in, or should you bring in anything new, to listen to what your clients are saying and what they're asking for, what their feedback is. Like if there's anything that they feel that they haven't, that they're not getting from you, what would that be?
right.
And then is that something that you feel comfortable providing? Like I'm with you on the waxing, like all the power to the waxers out there. But me personally, I've literally turned down jobs before because it would have required waxing, and that's just not my jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though I know it makes money, like, look, especially Brazilian waxing makes money. Male Brazilian waxing makes a lot of money, but no, thank you. That's I
Yeah.
have
So
no
that's,
interest.
well, and that's a prime example. I mean, I would say now I've been in the business for a long time. I definitely did body waxing. I did just about everything that you would learn and apply in as an esthetician. Um, but as you start to determine, I really like X on my menu. You do want to do that. You want to take a look at what services you're offering in a list and say, okay, let me rank these from like the one being my favorite thing to do and what's on the least of my favorite things to do. And then another important thing I think to do is to take a look at your numbers as well. Have a look at what is producing you the most. And a lot of times what's producing you the most has is a reason why it's producing you the most. Either A, you really like to do it, so you're probably selling a lot of it because you're really into it.
And the passion is
Um,
coming through to
the
the client.
passion's coming through. B, your clientele in your area obviously are motivated to do that. Usually the thing that you hate to do is not the one that's giving you the most money.
Right.
And
That does
so
happen sometimes though.
it does. And so I think knowing your numbers and then also taking a look at your menu and taking like a sharp look at it. I always do my business planning every year. I think that that's something that a lot of people in our industry, even for health coaches, are not doing. But you really want to take a look at what that looks like every year and determine what you want to do. What's this year going to look like? Am I finally going to shift and remove this item off my menu? And you can probably strategically do that if maybe you can find someone that you can partner with in the area to say, hey, that person does a lot of waxing. I don't want to do the waxing anymore. Maybe they don't like to do facials, and so they get to send you those clients.
Mhm.
Taking a look at what you're offering and honing in on what you really really like, I think, is a huge way to find your focus, because when you love what you're executing, you're creating the frequency to continue to attract the people that want that. And that's really where you're going to find that you're going to make your most money. And then also that's where you're going to find how to focus on what you're either buying for equipment or what you're using for products. And instead of just someone saying, oh, you got to do this service, everybody wants it and everybody wants this, and it's $150 every time you do this. And so sometimes those things are distracting because you see these numbers, or you have companies telling you what an ROI is going to look like each month. And I think that those are the things that are distracting. So in order to find your focus, you have to find what your focus is. Y-O-U-R, your focus. What do you want to do? Because if you look at your business and yes, you're doing a lot of waxing and it's not what you want to do, then you need to find a way to establish a shift. And if you're making your business plan every year, you might look at that and say, okay, I'm no longer going to take new waxing clients this year. You know, I do it already for my clients. This year, I'm not taking new clients for waxing. I want to keep my schedule available so that I can get some new clients for skincare. And then you can create your marketing plan around that. So, you know, if you can find what you really like to do and then hone in on that, it establishes all the other pieces around how you're going to get that result. So I think more people need to kind of take that deep look. And most people aren't doing that. You know, they're not
No,
paying
I think you're
attention.
right. I think that, unfortunately, so many aesthetics and coaching programs here in the United States are shorter programs and they don't have enough time to teach business and marketing skills in that curriculum because the state boards don't cover that. The certification exams don't really cover that. And people graduate these programs and they might have had some suggestions, about how to, I don't know, send an email newsletter or have a Facebook group that,
Right.
you invite people into and you post a bunch of content and hopefully they'll love you enough to buy from you and stuff like that. But overall, I think that the whole business development, business planning, and marketing side of things is something that a lot of people still need to learn. And I think that what that lends itself to is that people will try something that they love to do. So maybe they've created their own, wonderful custom facial protocol. They carry a skincare line that they love, or maybe they have their own skincare line that they love, and they open for business. They hang up their sign, they're ready to go. They have a website, they have their online scheduler, and because they're not getting enough clients because the marketing and the planning and the sales skills aren't developed enough yet, they assume that it's the service that's not selling. It's not necessarily that. It's that it's possible that maybe it's not positioned correctly, it's not being marketed effectively, and the selling skills might not be there because I know a lot of people just are afraid of selling. They feel that they're not good at it, or they're intimidated by it, or they feel that their clients will feel a certain way being sold to and that they won't come back. But fact of the matter is that any new service especially takes time to get established, and it has to be positioned correctly so that whoever that your ideal customer is for that service is attracted to it. The service is put right in front of where that customer is, whether it's an in-person practice. Maybe you have local referral partners that let you put some signage or brochures out, or maybe you do some events together locally that you can cross promote with another practitioner. Or if you're online, figuring out where does that customer hang out online that you can put your information, your services right in front of them so that they can't help but see you. And then it can actually have a real chance to see how it goes. But I think that people get frustrated really quickly. They blame the service, or they might blame themselves and say, I'm just not good at it. It's not working. So I'm going to have to try something else. So it's like they hop around trying the next best thing or next new thing because they think it's going to sell better this time. And then it doesn't. And we end up having a jack of all trades and master of none, which can be a problem because
Yeah,
then you don't really get great at any one
it's
particular
true.
thing. And while you might be a good generalist, it it might not give you a deep enough skill set to be able to truly make an impactful change in that client's life and get them the results they're looking for. So my advice would also be, if you feel like you want to bring on a new modality or you have to learn a new thing, like, that's fine. We're all for learning. We're all for trying new things, but make sure you've really also honed your marketing skills and your business development and sales skills so that you know that what you're doing now has been given a real shot at working and attracting those clients. And if it's not, then maybe that's an area to get support on first before buying that new machine or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that unfortunately there's so many products too in our industry that, I notice this a lot in groups on Facebook. I used to mentor in some of these groups, and someone would say, what's a good line for acne? And of course you get all these different people saying all these different
20
things.
different suggestions.
Yeah. And so, you can't, what you need to do is choose what a line that you want to work with, and then get really good with that line and understand the ingredients. And so that requires that you're not just learning about the line, but you're breaking down ingredient knowledge, and you're understanding how to apply those ingredients and how they're going to work synergistically with your clients. I'm a big fan of product testing. I never, ever, ever utilize products with my clients or sell products that I have not tested on my own self
Mhm.
or in my practice enough to have confidence about how the results are going to be. And I think a lot of people don't do this either, because they're chasing some random person on Facebook, what they're saying. And I I often find that a lot of the people that I'm hearing on Facebook, they have the same problem. They've been chasing all kinds of things. So today this product sounds really good to them because they used it and somehow they had some results with their one client or their one selves with acne, and now all of a sudden it's a great product. But then
Right.
a year later, they find that maybe they didn't understand the product enough to really get it to work with all their clients. And I think that all of that advice becomes super distracting.
Yeah.
People, girls that do lashes in this business too, they're the same way. Oh, this lash glue is the best lash glue. That lash glue is the best lash glue. Well, I hate to break it to everybody, but a lot of these glues are pretty much the same ingredients, and most of the time it's about your skill set and application, and it's not necessarily the product itself. Almost all those products are going to work really well once you become good yourself at
Right.
using them. The other thing I find with a lot of people in the industry is they train once. If it's some of these other modalities like lashes or lash lifting, maybe sometimes it's waxing. They train with one, they train once, and then they're like, oh, now I'm good at this service because I'm certified. And I tell people, you would be surprised on how incredibly good you can get by training with this in the same modality over and over again,
Yep.
which I know for some people seems so ridiculous. But, I used to do lash extensions years ago, and I trained with 5 different companies. And that's not because I wanted to be like, look at me, I trained with 5 companies, but because I knew that in each training, while I already knew how to do that service, I knew I was going to get something deeper each time because I came into it different.
Yep.
And then I gathered different information when I left. And I think that I see a lot of people go and they get their 1 day class, and then that's it. And so then they start product chasing, but it's really them that needs to hone the skill, like you said
Right.
before, like you need to
Got to
hone
give it
that skill.
time.
And once you hone the skill, you can move around with some of these products, and it's not the products. Lash lifting is the same thing. A lot of these girls in these Facebook groups are like, oh, this lash lifting product is better than that lash lifting product. If you are struggling to get that product you're using to work, then you need more education on how to do the service, or you need more tutorials, or maybe you need to reach out to the company and train with them again. And so that you can get good at what you have already. When you
Right.
do that, then it's a very different story. Once you go out into the world, you're not chasing product, but because people are putting a lot more weight on whether the product is performing than themselves, they get very distracted. I think that way too about, a lot of the machines for skincare. I use some machines in my practice, but not a lot. I certainly feel that my clients are coming to me for my education and what I am providing in my service. If you know, I get calls for hydrofacial, that's a pretty obviously very big company, and a lot of people do great with hydrofacial. I've never felt like it was a modality that fit for me. And when clients call asking for that, then I tend to think that maybe they're not looking for what I do. They're not looking for that customized service. And so if that's the case, if that's what you provide, then don't decide you have to bring in a machine. Then just keep providing your customized service and let someone else who really likes hydrofacial, who wants to use that modality, uh, do that down the road and be successful in their own right, and be successful with what you really like to do, by becoming really good at it, you know, getting that education so that you can provide what you like and not get distracted by a $30,000 machine
Yeah.
and think that you're going to definitely start doing what the girl down the road's doing, right?
And, I really like that you brought it up that, if people are calling just looking for a particular machine, or if they're calling just looking for a particular skincare line, and you're, looking to market that you are a practitioner of that machine or you carry that skincare line, that's all fine and good. But I kind of feel, and this might not be a popular opinion, but I feel almost like it devalues you as a person, as a practitioner, and it puts you more in the category of just being a technician of that machine and of that skincare product. So I understand that, skincare product lines have their branded protocols, that's how they like their practitioners to do their facials. Okay, fine. Same thing with machines. Like there's a certain way to use machines. I understand that there are some customizations that you can, you know, offer with those
Mm-hmm.
machines. But as a professional, I would not want to be less important to the client than the machine that I use or than the product line that I use.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
before I became an esthetician, I spent years in retail cosmetics. And in retail cosmetics, customers come looking for the product. They look for the brand or they look for the free gift. They're not coming to you because you give great advice or that you do a particularly great job with makeup. If it's a cosmetic line that's more known for, makeup artistry, that people are going to get their makeup done before a wedding or something, that's a little bit different. But if we're talking just retail skincare in a department store, they're not coming to you because of your knowledge of skincare. They're coming because you sell the product they want and that's all they want from you. And I don't want it to sound crass, but I almost feel like the same thing happens when, as a licensed professional or a certified professional, we hide behind these brand name modalities and machines and products, and we only bank on that to sell the service.
Yeah.
And we need
Well,
to be valuing ourselves
yeah.
as practitioners and
Well,
ourselves
I
as
think that's
practitioners.
exactly sort of the whole part about product chasing, right? Like
Mhm.
if you have this feeling like you're not successful because you don't have the right product, then you're probably missing something, right?
Yeah.
You're missing that there's actually deeper education to have. And I think personally, the beauty industry does not have a lot of great education. I mean, we have a great program, with certified
We
nutritional
do.
aesthetics. And to be honest with you, I've taken just about all the programs there are, so I can say that mostly everybody that's teaching out there, the beauty industry, these are one-day classes. They're not a lot of in-depth programming, but I
Or
also
they're very
think,
product specific, they're
or they're
brand
product
specific.
specific, right? And I think that it's created this energy among practitioners in the beauty field, in the wellness world, where they're kind of just stuck with this one thing that they've done. And I think that people need to dive deeper into their education, and it might mean that you take a class that you already know how to do the service. I've done that so many times, and I cannot stress enough how that has so made me better in my business and in my education, because I go and I learn a lot of the same stuff, but I always learn that level just a little bit more each time. And I
Hmm.
think people are like, well, I already took that class. I already know how to lash lift. I already know how to be a coach. I already know nutrition. I already know I already know holistic health. I mean, the truth is that these are growing, changing industries all the time. And so, while you might take another health coaching course, um, or you take another class, you're learning a nutrition a different way or whatever, these are the parts that make you better. And these are the
Yep.
parts that make you find your focus, because you can be more driven on those very particular parts that are attracted to you and what you can deliver back to your clients. These machines and products, I think a lot of them are great. I tell people there's no such thing as a magic product. And when people say, well, haven't you heard of this product? And I'm like, did you not know that there's thousands upon thousands of professional companies that all have great products, And I think that's the thing. Like, people don't realize how vast this industry is and
Right.
how much is out there. So it's never going to be about the machine. It's never going to be about the product. It's always going to be about your skill and your education, and you continually mounting that so that you can be better at what you do. And it's never going to be the product. It's never going to be the machine. I personally have never been a big fan of. I don't like to advertise products in my service menu. My service menu is 100% uh, custom
Mhm.
custom treatment every single time. The protocols for the treatments that I offer are all written by me.
Mhm.
I do not just blindly do service based on the facials or treatments that are put forth by the company. It's a great place to start, I think,
Sure.
for a lot of people, and it's good. And I think it gives you a basis to understand how that product line works. But your true application of how you're going to do really well is about what you love to do and you getting really good at it. And it's not going to come from the company. It's not going to come from the machine. And it's not going to come from these girls in these Facebook groups. I really wish that people would have put less value into what they're getting for information there, because a lot of those people are fresh out of school too.
It's true.
And
And that's why
maybe
they're there. And
right. And
yeah.
so I always feel really bad, because I'm like, I feel like a lot of these people in here are just not getting good advice about how to be better at their job or how to handle situations. And so, I guess that's why we're here with this podcast too. We
Well,
want to
absolutely. And what works for someone else is not necessarily going to work for your practice, for your clients. And also,
absolutely.
like to what you said, a lot of the people who post in these groups are newer practitioners
Yes.
who they're saying something is good. It's not that that's not true, but they might not have tried other things. They might only have experience with that line, so that's the line that they're going to say is good.
Or maybe they don't have experience, but it's the only thing they know,
They've
right?
heard it.
Like,
Maybe that's what
yeah,
they
someone
learned in
else told them,
school.
someone else told them, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but I think that's what happens with machines too, like you go to a trade show and you're like, oh my God, they told me that I'm gonna make $80 off every treatment. It's 30
right.
minutes and this and that. And I guess that might be true depending on where you are or what kind of esthetician you want to be. And maybe if you're in a place where that's where a lot of people are, what a lot of people are looking for, it's attractive. And certainly it can be a modality that can maybe bridge the gap between what you're offering, what you really want to offer, and what people want to come in for. So I mean, I think there's space for all those things. And I've had hydrofacial treatments and they're nice. I never found that it was something that I felt like I wanted to bring into my business, because me, I am about customizing. That is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about working with my client very on an individual basis. And so to me, that just wouldn't have fit my practice, but for
Right.
someone else, it might. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of distraction in the beauty industry. And
There is.
I feel like when you want to find your focus, this is where that business plan comes in once a year. It can be loose. You don't have to write a business plan that's perfect. You're not submitting it to a bank necessarily. You're just doing it for yourself. What are your goals for the year? What did you make last year? What do you want it to look like this year? What is the thing that you don't want to do anymore because you don't like doing it? What is the thing that you want to do that you really love? Put that on the list. And how can you support growing that one thing? How do you do that? How do you take the clients that are wanting to come for waxing? How do you get them to become facial clients if that's what you prefer to do? If you do, wellness coaching, how do you move your clients from something that they were doing a beauty part, a beauty service, and get them to start to listen and integrate some of your wellness practices? Like, how do you do that? You do it by starting with that business plan, writing down your goals. And if you grossed $50,000 the year before, then write down what you want to, how you want that to look for that year, and then highlight those things you want to focus on. And once you start shining the light energetically on finding what your focus will look like, it's incredible how your business will just shift around that, but by pure frequency.
Yeah. No,
And
it does.
yeah, and I think that you kind of need to shut yourself out from some of those. Really seek advice from people that you want to advise you. Don't be in Facebook groups because you think you're going to get good advice, because you probably won't. Find yourself a business coach, or tap into professionals where you trust their opinion, not necessarily these groups of girls that are just spewing a bunch of different things. I find that very distracting. And to me too, because I'm in there, I'm like reading through, I'm like,
Like, how
and I'm
much
like,
time have I been in this group?
yeah. And then I feel bad because I think that through little text messages in a group chat isn't really effective advice. So choose wisely who you're being advised from.
Mhm.
That's a really good one too, because take advice from successful people.
Right.
And everybody has a different view on what that should look like. If you think success is that your whole day is filled with one type of service that you love to do, you take advice from somebody who seems to have done that. If your idea of being successful is making a lot of money and you want that big ROI on your service, then take advice from people who are getting that.
Yeah.
And
Not from the
also,
manufacturers
yeah,
telling
not
you.
from the manufacturer. And the other thing is too, is not everybody is good at business, especially in the
Yeah.
beauty industry. I think it's probably the worst ever. I mean, maybe there's other industries similar, but I find that most people in the beauty industry have no idea what their numbers are. They really are not great at saying, oh, I know what the margin is on this service. I see people in these Facebook groups saying, oh, well, how much should you charge for X, Y, and Z? And
So many variables affect that.
I think to myself, how can you get advice from somebody on what to charge if they don't know what your rent is, they don't know
Right.
what your costs are, they don't know what your taxes are, they have no idea what your product cost is depending on what you buy. You cannot take advice about how to price your service from people on Facebook from all over the place
Who know nothing about
who
your
know
business,
nothing
know
about.
nothing about your clientele.
And
Yeah.
that's a big part of that distraction, right? So one of the other things I notice is, um I heard this a lot a couple of years ago in some groups when they were talking about how they, some of the Asian salons that were doing in my state, some of the Asian salons that were doing brow waxing, they felt like their business was being stolen because we didn't have licensing at the time. And I said, nobody's stealing your business. It
Right.
doesn't matter if they price their brow wax at $7 for a brow wax, then they're getting clients that want to pay $7. Okay. You need to figure out what your price is based on your value and stay in your space so that you can be successful. You should never be worried about what the lady down the road is doing. Let the lady down the road do what she wants. You have no idea if she's making money or not.
That's right.
She could be charging $7 for a brow wax and barely paying her rent. Okay. So that's not the model you want to follow. The model you want to follow is the one that fits in your business with your clients, your passion, your direction, your finances, and that is it. And so the distraction that we see is really pulling people out and making them feel like they can't make money in the industry, making them feel like they're not good enough because they're not, I can't afford to charge $7. it's just not, that's not how it works. So I hope if people are listening to this,
Yeah.
all you people out there, is that get some more education, learn some of the marketing. We have lots of great stuff with the Nutritional Aesthetics Alliance that you can do to get some marketing training, get some expand your business, and maybe get more focused. So
Right.
definitely get a little more organized with that, because that'll be your biggest asset in the long run.
Yeah. And, I want to speak to kind of the coaching and wellness side of this
Yeah.
too, because I know that we have people watching and listening to the podcast and who take our programs who are not hands on practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
And what the distraction looks like. And this is something that I've definitely experienced, since coaching has been primarily what I've done in my practice before I got into education. And I remember, as a fairly new coach, I was pretty green with marketing. I was learning as I was going. I was taking lots of online courses, hiring business coaches and marketing coaches, and learning everything I could. And what was most distracting to me as a coach was like, what program should I offer? Should I do like a 3-day Facebook group challenge? Should I do a 21-day detox? Should I do a 90-day reset? Should I do a new year, new you promo? Should I do, how to eat healthy around the holidays? And so many of the coaching programs give you kind of prepackaged programs to get you started. I remember with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, I don't know if they still do this because this was a long time ago, but they basically gave us these packaged classes that we could teach. One was called Sugar Blues, on how to cut your relationship with sugar. Then I think there was one called Eat for Energy, or something like that. And that's a great way to get you started. But I remember I was so excited to like go pitch Sugar Blues to like my local library. I was going to go teach that. And I got there, and wouldn't you know it, I saw a flyer on their bulletin board for an upcoming Sugar Blues class taught by
Oh,
another health coach. And I
yeah.
was like, oh man, well, should I pitch the Eat for Energy one? And then I'm thinking to myself, that's all great. But, even before I got into coaching, my reasons for getting into coaching had to do with the fact that when I cleaned up my diet, my skin cleared. So it,
Mhm.
it was always about skin for me, whether it was becoming an esthetician and working hands on for the short time that I did, or learning to make skincare products and then teaching people to make skincare products, or becoming a health coach and learning more about the holistic nutrition side of things. All of it had to do with, how do I clear my own skin? And then once I saw how that worked for me, and I started teaching that to other people in my practice, which was required through my practicum at the time, and then I saw them getting results, then I'm like, okay, it all had to come back to skin, because that's what my story was. It didn't help me to focus on like all these other topics that I didn't really resonate with, but they just seemed like low hanging fruit that were
Yep.
easy to teach. And I think a lot of people feel like, oh, everybody wants, a get ready for summer type of cleanse, or fall detox, or something like that. And that's when we start to see the market getting saturated with the same stuff over and
Mhm.
over again. And it's not necessarily speaking to what your expertise is, your why, your story for why you got into this business in the first place, and what you can offer based on that. It doesn't speak to that unless, you're putting your own spin on it. So obviously I could teach a class about sugar and how it affects the skin, and I can talk about glycation, and I can talk about candida and all of that and how it affects the skin. Sure. But the kind of packaged Sugar Blues class was not that. It
Yeah,
was more
totally.
specific to like just overall health, and maybe a
Mhm.
little bit on the side of weight loss, which, even though weight loss was part of my journey, it was not at all what I wanted to focus on, because it was just like, weight loss is a whole different world than skincare is when it comes to client psychology and, what is holding them back from getting results and all of that. So on the coaching side, kind of figuring out what your focus should be, I always tell you to think about why you wanted to get into this in the first place, because 9 out of 10 times it's for a personal reason.
Mhm.
Either somebody in your family had some sort of health crisis that got better when they took a more holistic approach, or maybe it didn't, and you thought, well, maybe if they would have been more preventative, this wouldn't have happened. For me, it was acne, and then it was weight gain after pregnancy, but even then, it was still about acne. Um, it's different for everyone. And I think that with the wellness and coaching side of things, people have more personal reasons for getting into it sometimes than for the beauty thing, because beauty is kind of seen as more fun and more surface sometimes. And people don't always get into it for a specific reason. I've talked to so many estheticians, and I'll ask them, like, what's your story? Why did you get into this? Thinking that they had acne or they had some kind of skin issue. And a lot of them, no, I just like products,
Yeah.
or I just
Yeah.
thought it would be a great way to help women look and feel their best. I mean, it's not necessarily because of a personal experience.
Mhm.
And that's something that we do see more on the wellness side. So I encourage you to really go back to what that original catalyst was that made you kind of walk this path for yourself in your own life, and that will lead you to how you want to help your clients.
Well, and I think kind of what you just said too, like in the wellness world as well, is that there's a lot of different ways to apply the knowledge of wellness with your clients, right? So you can also be distracted by every single whimsical diet that comes
Oh my
along
god.
or ideology, right? So it's not
Don't even
that.
get me started.
So right. So and so that particular part too applies just the same because, I get clients in and when we're talking about the structure of their lifestyle and what they're doing, what I apply in my life is very different from what a lot of people do, and a lot of people come from a lot of different backgrounds, either cultural or they
Right.
come from maybe vegetarian, veganism, all the way up to carnivore. So there's all this spectrum. So again, it goes back to being educated, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about you finding what you feel like you can hone in on, not the knowledge, but then also having this broad spectrum of knowledge that you gain. You can take 10 nutritional classes, right? And maybe they're all going to be a little bit different in some respect, but you keep taking them because you're going to keep getting these nuggets of information that you can then relate to that newer person that you just had. And so if you're, you are in wellness and lifestyle coaching, there's no way that you've gained all the knowledge to impart that on someone for them to go off and have the most perfect life. But the
Yes.
more that you stay educated and you keep honing your skill of understanding biology and understanding how it applies to wellness and understanding how to work with people, the better you're going to get at delivering and sharing that information. And so, I find that the wellness world will do the same thing where people are like very honed in on one style or one thing, or this is the diet plan, or maybe they're using the ones from their programs, right?
Mhm.
Same thing. They haven't honed in on their skill and then their understanding enough, and then maybe they're struggling to keep those people on their schedule or on their books because they need to expand,
Yeah.
so same thing, just keep expanding your education and keep deciding what you feel like resonates with you so that you can keep imparting that in both realms.
Yeah, and I think, I wanted to kind of in this episode, I wanted to like round out this discussion with like, when do you know it's the right time to bring on a new skill or learn a new modality or learn something different or change a skincare line? And I would love to hear what you think, and what, because you do a few different things in your practice. I know you've got the coaching, you've got the hands-on, you've got the store, and in my I have my business consulting, I have the online courses, and I have my my practice, my skin wellness practice that I still work with clients who have skin issues. But like, it's all for me just evolved over time, and it's been shaped by what my clients have either needed more of, or needed less of. And then by the education that I've gotten since 2010, I've been consistently taking online courses. I've been consistently involved in masterminds or working with business coaches or marketing agencies, and had colleagues who are like-minded but are not exactly doing what I do, so that we can bounce ideas off of each other and collaborate and brainstorm. And it's what I found is that anytime I've made a change or a pivot, it's been one of two things. It hasn't been because something wasn't selling all that well, because if something's not selling, then I just figure out a different way to sell it. That's how I've always approached it. And I feel like most entrepreneurs do it too. It's usually not the product or the service that's the problem. It's usually the positioning or the selling or the marketing. So there's always a different way to sell something. But if I've dropped something or discontinued something or created something new, it's because maybe the market has changed and that offering is actually now obsolete, which does happen because, more people are teaching things online now. And even though I might be teaching things a different way than Susie Q in Canada is teaching it, it it becomes a time when you have to decide, well, am I still really invested in this? Is this still how I want to be spending my time? How much longer do I want to be teaching this same thing? And there have been courses that I have discontinued or retired because I kind of just lost passion for it, since I'd been doing it for so long. And now there are other competitors, and I have to make the decision, is it worth retooling it again to keep it relevant, or is it time to let it go and try
Yeah.
something new? So I
I
think
think,
when you start to feel disconnected to something because you've lost the passion for it, not necessarily because it's not selling.
yeah,
If
that's
you
it.
still believe in something and feel like it still has life and people still need it, then you just got to find a different way to sell it. But
Yeah.
if you go to like deliver that service or teach that course or sell that product and you're thinking, oh God, I wish I didn't have this on my calendar today.
No,
I don't want to do it. If
no.
that's like a repeated thing, then that's a
hmm
clear sign that it's just not in alignment anymore.
Yes.
And then whatever energy you're putting out to try to sell it is not going to bring back what you want, because that comes through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you really summed it up, because I think what makes business, especially when you're an entrepreneur, but what makes the ebb and flow is you.
Mm-hmm.
It's you. It's always going to be you. Things in my life, I was very passionate about certain things that I used to have on my menu, that and they bridged the gap, in my career. They brought me to the next space and the next space and the next space. And I think this is why it's really about what you're educated in, and the more you become educated, the more direction that's provided to you about what you should be doing, because the more you learn, the more then you get excited about how that might affect the people that you're working with and how that can make them better. And it's got to come from your space of feeling really into the information. I don't struggle a day in my job to enjoy what I do, because everything that I do is some faction of my own personal growth, education, and development. If I'm working with a client and we're probably tackling lifestyle and some of their wellness, we're also tackling some of their skin. Most of the time it always comes back to the lifestyle and wellness anyway,
Yeah.
but that what I'm imparting to them is what I have personally experienced in my life and what I continue to be educated on. If you are in the beauty industry and you're obsessed with waxes, and so every time you go to the trade show, you're trying and product testing all these waxes, and then you're able to do this great service in a short amount of time and you're making top dollar, well, and you love it, it's never going to be about should I keep doing it or not going to do it. To do it because you're delivering it and it's making you money, and it's what you want to do. And
Yeah.
so I find that we've really created a culture in a world where we no longer listen to our intuition, and we no longer tap into, we're distracted by all of this commercialism on what you should sell or what you should buy or what you should do in your treatment room or what machine to buy or what diet to sell. And so we're looking around and trying to pluck out the things from the environment, but really you need to pluck them from here. You have to
Mm,
really pluck them from yourself. You have to really say, what in my life is what I really love? If you had acne, and that's really what drives you, that's a really great thing, because then then you know that you're helping people with acne because it's what you needed help with,
right.
same thing if you're in lifestyle wellness. Some of it, for lifestyle wellness, sometimes it comes down to, maybe it's weight, but a lot of times for people it's just simply not being sick.
Mm,
And so when you have that experience because you're driving yourself to get answers and to learn, that flips itself right over to the people you're working with. And I think people need to stay focused on that. Focus on what you love and focus on what means something to you.
yeah.
And then that's the rest of it kind of comes from there. And it sounds so like whimsical, but the truth is that if you don't do that, you will find yourself either not doing well, you'll find yourself probably unhappy in your job,
Right.
and you'll find that your clients aren't resonating with you because, my clients know that I'm driven by passion, and I'm giving them a very educated perspective. I'm imparting a lot of knowledge to them, and they know that because they know I'm doing it for myself. I always tell people,
Absolutely.
like, do it for yourself, and then you can turn around and give it. But you'll pivot because you feel it. You'll
Right.
pivot because something's no longer speaking to you. You already said that, like, you
Yep.
started to realize it just wasn't something that you felt like it was your bag anymore, but it might be someone else's to deliver at that point,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another reason that I've had to pivot in my life, and I'm sure you've had to do this too, is because, my kids' schedule changed. I used to
Hmm.
teach evening classes, webinars all the time. But starting around, the time when my one daughter was like maybe 12 and my other daughter was 10, and they started getting super busy in the afternoons with activities and homework and all that, the idea of then teaching an evening class after momming for that
Yeah.
time period, I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, and
All
that's
I
the
want to
great
do is
thing.
like sit on my couch and numb out before bed.
And that's the greatest thing about being an entrepreneur
Is
is,
that you can
again,
change that.
is that so you have a focus, and just remember, it's your focus, so you can refocus,
Mhm.
and you can have a structure for what you really want to do, and then you can change it, and so it's kind of a twofold thing. But yeah, I mean, I have kids too, and so my business has changed over the years. It's never going to stay the same. It's
Right.
never going
It's
to stay,
always in flux.
and always flux with what you're passionate about, what you believe in, because it's hard to fail that way,
Well,
you
and
know.
because we are organic changing beings, our interests are going to change. Our passions are going to change as we grow and age and experience more of life. Our beliefs might change.
True.
I mean,
Very
my
true.
goodness, if I were to talk to a younger version of myself and have some of the conversations that I have as, 45-year-old version of myself, I
Hmm.
think the younger version of myself would think I was like some, lame old person. And then, if I were to go back in time and be a fly on the wall and listen to my 20 something year old self having conversations with my friends, I'd be like, oh my God,
Yeah, yeah,
grow up. Like, I mean,
yeah,
we
yeah.
change and that's
Hmm.
normal. So,
Hmm.
I also think that a lot of entrepreneurs are multi passionate individuals. We have
Hmm.
a lot of interests. So, one tip that I have found really helpful that I hope I can impart onto those of you who are listening is that if you're one of these people who always has great ideas, and like once you get an idea, you're like, oh my God, I got to do this thing right now. And then you do the thing, and then you have another great idea before you really had a chance to see that one thing through. it's okay to like write it down and just kind of
Mhm.
put it on the back burner. And then when you are doing your business planning, look and see which of those ideas might fit into that next plan. And if yearly planning seems too overwhelming for you, you can do quarterly planning
Yeah,
and then
quarterly
break it
planning
down
too.
into even weekly planning. But there's nothing that says that you can't try different things and you can't come up with new offers and come up with uh, you know, new products or take on new products and services if you truly are passionate about it. But not everything has to happen right now. We're in this for the long haul and there's time for that. And I think that a lot of us worry that we have to do everything right now.
Yeah, and I think people, while it seems always so distracting with products and equipment and things like that, I think people underestimate the long-term value of the education, right?
Mhm.
Because that return on investment is going to be way higher. It's different because you can't measure it the same. So, it's harder for people to envision how that's going to impart itself.
Sure.
But really, that is the best investment that you can make is classes, webinars, trainings, research, books. I mean, that's where you should really pay the most attention,
Mhm.
because I think that you'll find that when your machine dies and you have to buy a new one, where are you? If you use a machine for 10 years singularly and then it's no longer there, can you say that that made you a better esthetician? Can you say that it made you better at, some people do different kinds of devices in their health coaching practice, and does that make you better, or does the way that you've learned how to help coach people make you better, right?
Yeah.
And so that long-term investment, I think, is the best one. And I think to not be distracted about tools, lab tests, specific things like that,
Sure.
like, staying focused on how you can be smarter, be
Yeah.
stronger, be better as a
And that's
technician,
going to
as
make you more resilient. And I know nobody wants to think of, the pandemic, but what we saw from our perspective as educators is that the people who had the most education and the most skills, those were the ones who were able to keep working when
it's
they
true.
couldn't work hands on anymore. Those were the ones that were able to easily jump on the computer and figure out what can they do to make money right now with
Mhm.
the knowledge and skills that they already have.
Right.
And also
That's
many of
something
them
that can't,
also chose to learn new skills that
yep.
were appropriate for that virtual
Once
setting.
you get the education, it doesn't go away.
Yes,
It doesn't have a shelf life.
that's a really good point.
And
Yep.
so, to me, that's always been, my greatest asset is that being more and more educated. And it's proven that year after year for me. Um, and so I would say that's the best investment. And then, pick something if you want that will enhance you,
Sure.
but isn't you.
Yeah, that's all really great points. So we're really curious to hear what you have to think
Hmm.
on about this topic. So listeners, we would love it if you would share in the comments, either on our YouTube channel or you can leave us a review on whatever channel or platform you get your podcasts on. We would love to know your thoughts on this topic, what you've experienced, what questions you have. And, while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, like, share all those good things. We are a fairly new podcast, so all your support helps us grow and helps us put more content out there to help more skin wellness pros. So thank you for listening. Tara, thank you for being here with me today, joining
Glad to be
joining me
here.
from your sunny vacation. And we'll be back soon with a new episode. Bye everyone.
Bye.